Welcome to another edition of the Hawk Off the Press podcast. I'm your host, Gazette Hawkeye football reporter, John Steppe. I'm excited to welcome back my award-winning Gazette colleague, women's basketball reporter, and the 2024 Iowa Sports Writer of the Year, Jeff Linder. Jeff, congratulations, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So now 15 games into the season, hard to believe it is already 15 games into the season. But how would you kind of evaluate this Iowa women's basketball team so far?
I'd say they're kind of what we thought they would be. Inconsistent. Their highs have been pretty good. When they turn the ball over, they run into trouble. The three losses, they're coughing it up about 24 times a game, and their 12 wins, it's more like 14. So that I think that says quite a bit right there. It's a fresh team. The young kids are making this a lot of fun, and I think people just need to be patient because I think good days are coming again, and it's not like 12-3 is bad.
No, and that Maryland game this past, I guess that was Sunday, seemed like not a great first half, better second half. What do you kind of take away from a game like that?
Well, it was, for one thing, Maryland just didn't miss in the first half. They were hitting everything from outside, and Iowa was turning it over, and that led to some other baskets. And they got down 25 in the second quarter, and came out and played really well. I don't know what was said at halftime. I'm sure it wasn't all pleasant, but Iowa came back, got within 5 a couple times in the fourth quarter against a very good team, and they ran out of time or ran out of steam or whatever. But I would say that was promising.
And then rotationally, kind of what do you expect from this team? Obviously, kind of an interesting availability that you had there today regarding
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Ava Hayden may have let something slip about maybe some changes and the team may be going smaller. So I don't know. Jan kind of, I don't want to say she danced around it, but she didn't answer whether there'd be changes or not. We'll find out tomorrow at Illinois. We'll kind of looking forward to the numbers going up on the board and seeing who's going to be in the starting lineup because there might be a change or there certainly might not. I just, we just don't know.
It seems like kind of and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like with these next 4 games, it's gonna be interesting, kind of 4 middle of the pack Big
Yeah.
Ten teams with Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska, at Oregon. What are you kind of most curious about from this Iowa team as they kind of go through this stretch?
Yeah, it's a big stretch. Hopefully they can go 2-2 at the very worst. Maybe, they're capable of winning all 4. Would think that they would beat Indiana here. Illinois there, I would say it's better than a 50-50 win. Oregon there, you got the time zone thing that, you talk about all the time in football and you do in all sports because that's just the way the human clock works. And forgive me, what was the other one again? I'm blanking out here.
Let's see. Illinois,
Indiana,
Indiana, Nebraska.
Nebraska, yeah, that's a coin flip too. I mean, Nebraska's Iowa's only double play of the 18 game conference schedule, so I kind of assume that would be a split. So, you just want to protect home court. You don't want to lose. You assume they're going to lose to USC and UCLA at home, but you hope that if you're an Iowa fan that they can win just about all the rest of them and pick up a few road wins and maybe make it to 11-7 or maybe 12-6, but that's probably a little optimistic.
What have you seen from Lucy Olson? Obviously, a tough job for her in terms of filling the void of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and that was never the point. She was never going to fill that void. But I'll tell you, Lucy's a great player in her own right. She's a very unique player. She's got that mid-range game and kind of a little bit of a hitch to her jump shot that you don't see very often. It's kind of an old school game, and it's really enjoyable. And she's good for 15 to 20 points a game. And I wouldn't say she's replacing Caitlin Clark. I think that's unfair, but she's softening the blow of Clark's absence.
Is there a player in particular that stands out to you as maybe most improved from last year?
Um, I would say Kylie Furbach a little bit better than last year. Taylor McCabe is her role has expanded a little bit. She's not just a sniper from outside. The ones that you notice are the freshmen that seem to be getting better and are going to be getting a lot more time, I think, as we move along.
Now, obviously, only halfway through the season, pretty
Mhm.
much, for Jensen's first year at the helm. But kind of any big differences you've noticed, having covered so much of, Lisa Bluder between kind of what Bluder's teams look like versus Jensen's teams?
Um, Maybe some more substitutions, maybe a little bit more depth, maybe a little more trust, 8, 9, 10 in the rotation. As far as X's and O's, I'm probably not equipped to answer that. You'd need somebody that's a little bit more of a, chalkboard guru than me. But no, I don't see a lot of difference. And but I just see, yeah, I don't think this team would be much better or worse if Lisa was still here. I think it would be pretty similar, probably sitting right around 12-3.
Kind of what are your impressions, kind of, especially as an AP voter, of this Big Ten as a whole? Obviously expanded with some pretty
Yeah.
good teams out
Oh,
west.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You knew USC and UCLA were going to be, national championship contenders, and they are. I would say Washington's a little bit better than I thought they'd be. I think they're 3-1 in the Big Ten right now, and going out there and playing Washington, Oregon, those certainly are not gimmies now. Maryland's very good. Ohio State's very good. Both the Michigan State's teams are good. I was telling somebody the other day that eighth is the new fifth in the Big Ten. Just if you're an eighth place team in the Big Ten with 18 teams, that's not a bad year, and you're above break even, and I'm sure aspirations are much much higher than that. But right now they're tied for ninth.
And then kind of looking at that month of February, I think it's three different top 10 teams that
Yeah.
Iowa has to go up against between USC at the beginning of the month, Ohio State, and UCLA. Is there one of those three that you think is a relatively more favorable matchup for the Hawkeyes?
Ohio State. I just don't see a path to them beating either of the LA schools. Ohio State might be gettable. Ohio State is kind of good for maybe having a clunker here or there against a lesser team, and I'm not sure I was a much less of a lesser team than Ohio State, but I would say that's a possibility.
And then kind of looking big picture, obviously still, 2 months or so until postseason, but what do you see as kind of the ceiling of this 2024-25 team?
Well, I said before the Big Ten season started, I laid out a best and worst case scenario, and I'll stick with that now. I would say best case is Sweet 16. If they'd really get in gear, maybe they could host the first two rounds. I'm guessing they're probably going to be about a 6 seed, give or take. So, could they go somewhere and beat a three? If the cards fall right, maybe. I would say Sweet 16 and maybe giving somebody a headache in that regional semifinals a possibility. Worst case scenario, I'd say, kind of a little bit of a free fall, kind of like what Iowa State's done and NCAA bubble.
And then if you had kind of one X factor in terms of, okay, you're gonna get closer to that ceiling if blank, what would you say that would be?
I would say if Hannah Stolke and Sydney Fulter um, are perfectly healthy at the end of the year and play to their 100% potential.
Well, Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Until next time, we will talk Hawks later.